Welcome back to another episode of Jailbreak Overlander. I'm Richie, and this is Jailbreak. In this episode, I'm in Arizona. And I love Arizona. It's huge. Lots of different landscapes, lots of different places, things to see, etc. Now, unfortunately, my truck had ended up in the shop over and over again getting fixed and refixed, and I was eager to hit the trails. I wanted to get out to a place that I had been to once before called Table Mesa Road. It was a badass trail and there were some serious formations I wanted to see. So, I jumped in my truck and headed off in that direction. So take a ride with me. I'll drive. All you have to do is sit back, relax, and check this out. So I'm in Arizona, and my truck has basically been tied up for about 2 weeks, and I am dying to hit the road and head out to where the sequoia cactus grow. Now, being from the city, we think these cactus grow all over the West, when in fact they don't. They're found only in the Sonoran Desert, which includes about 120,000 square miles of California in Arizona. I didn't know that. I thought they grew just anywhere. And the one other time I was in Arizona, I ended up in this exact spot, which just made me believe that more so. But they only grow here, and the strange thing about these things is it takes these things about 50 to 100 years in good conditions to actually grow an arm. You know, the arms that come off the side. I didn't know that. And you didn't know that. But now you do, and now I do. So there's that. At any rate. Beside just the cactus that only grow in this area, I was also told about some rock formations that look suspiciously like the rock formations that were found at Pumapunku in western Bolivia. To find these rock formations, I was going to have to take Table Mesa Road. Now, from the air, the road looks nice and smooth, no big deal. Well, that's just how it looks from the drone. But in reality, if you look at it from another angle, say the ground, it looks a little bit more like this. And this is the part you don't see. Me a couple of 100 times setting up various cameras. I seriously need a butler. And before we get rolling in this video, I just want to touch on one thing. The video I made called The Scariest Video, the reason I called it the scariest was A, I didn't know where I was going, and B, there was nowhere to yield to oncoming traffic. Therefore, to me, it was the scariest trail I've ever been on. But I digress. Now on to what I think is the best trail in Arizona, Table Mesa Road. Here we go. Now, some of the best parts of the trail were the declines. These are a lot steeper than they look, as you probably already figured out. But these went down and then did 180 turns or hairpin turns several times. It was phenomenal. It's an unbelievably awesome trail, in my opinion, and I've been on a lot of trails. So again, this trail is listed by alltrails.com as moderate, but that was written about 10 years ago, and washouts, the weather, and other vehicles can change the trail. And I ran into at least 4 vehicles that needed assistance because they were in way over their head. Just know that when you go out there. But for the most part, anybody with any skills and 4-wheel drive can do this trail, no problem, and it is worth it. Now you see that big pile of boulders right there? There's an even larger set, and that's what I'm heading to. These rocks have a story behind them, and I wanted to see them for myself in person. And then after a couple of hours of driving and sightseeing, I came to the rock formations that I heard about and that I wanted to find. In the middle of this huge mountain valley pass with what appeared to be a river wash running right through the center was this enormous pile of boulders, and they were massive. These were bigger than houses. Now, rocks in the middle of a mountain pass aren't all that interesting, but these were like enormous river stones, and it didn't make any sense where they actually came from. That's what was so interesting to me about them. Now I know, some people are just shaking their heads going, dude, those are just rocks. Well, look at the rocks in comparison to my truck that's parked right beside them. My truck's 7.5 feet tall and 7,000 pounds and looks like a matchbox car next to these stones. And if you looked at the mountains behind it and the mountains in front of it, it doesn't make any sense that these are here. Now, bear in mind, I know a lot of people are going to say this is from the Ice Age and glaciers brought them here, etc. Well, there's a lot of formations on Earth that have absolutely zero explanation. For instance, Pumapunku, Egypt, Göbekli Tepe, etc. And bear in mind, I did a video on petrified wood. It's a few videos back if you want to check it out. And I show some of the articles from physics.org that shows that NASA has given royalty on Earth moonstones that were fraudulent. They were simply petrified wood from Arizona. So I don't necessarily go along with all the history as it's presented to us at all. And there's a reason for that. History is written by the victors. Victors are usually the aggressive assholes that take over another country or continent and then erase all their history and rewrite it for themselves. So when I'm looking at these stones and I know that there's more formations down the road that look just like Pumapunku, it makes me wonder how these got here. Just piled up perfectly in the middle of nowhere, and if you look around, it makes no sense. These aren't volcanic rock, and the way they're stacked and molded into each other is very interesting. That's why I'm showing this to you. I started running out of daylight, so I decided to spend the night out here. Plus, I wanted to run the trail one more time the next day. Now, running the trails at night in the desert, if you don't live in the desert, is an entirely different animal. And it took me a little bit of driving to find a place where I could actually pull over, set up a tent, set up a campfire, etc., not bother anybody and not get bothered by anybody either. So it took a bit. But after rolling for a little while, I found a spot and it worked out. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Richie from Jailbreak Overlander. I don't think you can even see me, can you? Because I am out in the dark. Look at that. I am out in Arizona, and it is dark. By myself out in the desert. The big sequoia cactus, whatever they're called. I can never say the name correctly. I'm watching the stars. It's Christmas Day. And I'm doing what I always do on Christmas. I'm staying away from everyone else. I don't want to ruin it. Okay, hopefully the GoPro's picking up that crazy light right over there. You see that? Right over the top of that cliff. Brightest light there is. Because it's moving in wacky ways. So for those of you that have spent nights in the desert, you can see how the lights can look distorted coming over the mountains. Either that, there's an awful lot of UFO activity. I don't know. I didn't have a good camera other than a GoPro setup, so is what it is. But I saw a UFO, I think. I don't know. Back to the trail. Okay, first thing the next morning, I wake up. This is where I camped, and I head right back onto the trail. And like I said, this is a fun trail. It's pretty badass. Lots of different climbs, lots of rocks, lots of sand, lots of scenery, lots of places to test your four-wheel drive skills. This was probably one of the most enjoyable trails I did in Arizona, straight up. Now, one thing this trail has lots of, it's rocks. Rocks, stones, and boulders. So be prepared. So I already found the big boulders, and I already told you my thoughts on them for what that's worth. But now I'm on my way to the other end of the trail where there are rock formations that appear to be melted together, much like Pumapunku. If you don't know what Pumapunku is, you haven't been following me long. Now, for those of you new to overlanding or off roading and you rely on GPS and Gaia and Trails.com and All Trails to guide you and tell you what's safe, you're looking at a trail that's considered moderate. Many times I had to put it in, first of all, four-wheel drive. I usually only use rear-wheel drive in low. And a couple of times I had to engage my rear locker. This is what's considered moderate. It can be done in a stock Jeep, but you are going to scrape, dent, and tear pieces off. Period. Just know that. I enjoyed this trail so much and really wanted to get it on video so you could see what it looked like as opposed to just reading about it, that I stayed here 3 days, 2.5 days, 2.5 days and 2 nights out in the desert. The desert wildlife was amazing. The owls, the different noises I heard, and then the stars and, we'll call them, lights in the sky. You can watch lights come over a mountain and then take an erratic 90-degree turn and then bounce back and forth, and then it turns out just to be an airplane. Or is it? I don't know. But it's an amazing place. And again, for the cactus alone, for me, it was worth it. Because these things were something I thought were all over the place out west, and they aren't. They're very specific to southern Arizona, close to the Mexican border. I did not know that. You probably didn't know that. But now we both know that, so there's that. At any rate, on to the rocks. But first I have to make it down this insane set of switchbacks on a shelf road. This was a fun downhill. It was just difficult doing the obstacle and controlling the drone at the same time. as you can see, but I tried. For those that stuck with me this long in the video, I make these videos specifically for my subscribers to my other channels that can no longer get out and do this on their own. They seem to appreciate it, and I don't mind doing it. It takes a lot of time and effort, but I'm getting pretty decent at the editing, etc., so it's all worth it. But just know that. So there's that. So after what seemed like an eternity, I made it to the other rock formations, and you'll notice them, they're always at the top. See the top of the mountain to the left-hand side? I'm going to zoom in on it for you. But these rocks appear to be formed together like they were heated up and melted together, which is identical to Pumapunku's walls and other locations around the world. Now people can shake their heads and say what they want, but they know how the Great Pyramids were actually built and what they were built for. They know what Göbekli Tepe is. They know what Pumapunku is. You don't, and I don't, but some of us actually look for alternate history, and it's all around us. Sarcophagus, Egyptian sarcophagus, were found in caverns in the Grand Canyon. And you know what? You and I aren't allowed to go to the area where they were found. So before you shake your head, do a little research, or don't. Just listen to the mainstream, and I'm sure you'll be all set. At any rate. So I'm looking at these rock formations that could have been a fortress at one time, and I noticed this rock way off in the distance that looks exactly like a carved samurai head or a sphinx. And I flew the drone right up to it, and it still looked like a carved head or a sphinx. But even from a distance, it looked like that. In order for certain groups of people to control the rest of the people on Earth, they have to tell little lies, we'll call them. History is based on lies. Know that. Or don't. The information is still out there. Research it for yourself. I'll leave links in the description below. At any rate, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and I will return the favor. I am out.